she's got a really naughty sense of humour, which kind of helps me because I've got a very dirty sense of humour. So it was good fun. We had a really good laugh, and then we have been brought closer because of the circumstances as well. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, you are.
Royal corridors buzzed with whispers of a moment that left even the stoic Kate and William in tears. What could possibly have moved them so deeply? The answer lay in their daughter's astonishing transformation, a story hidden behind gilded doors. It was a transformation so unexpected, so profound, that even seasoned courtiers and hardened palace staff were left exchanging glances of disbelief. For in the quiet heart of the monarchy, away from the cameras and polished statements, something remarkable had unfolded, something that even the king himself reportedly acknowledged with a solemn nod and an almost imperceptible smile. Princess Charlotte, the little girl once known for clinging shyly to her mother's hand, had become someone entirely different, and no one inside the palace could ignore it. At first, it was easy to dismiss, as coincidence, a more confident wave here, a steadier gaze there. But insiders who had seen countless royal children come of age knew this was different. There was a grace about her, a self-assuredness that didn't just arrive overnight. Those close to the family spoke of an unmistakable shift in the air, subtle yet commanding whenever she entered a room. Unlike the carefully rehearsed gestures of past generations, Charlotte's presence was entirely her own. The weight of centuries-old tradition clashed with the undeniable freshness she brought, leaving some uneasy, others in awe. Every step she took seemed to echo with possibility, as if foreshadowing a future no one yet dared to name. For William and Kate, the realization struck not with fanfare, but in the quiet privacy of a moment they hadn't anticipated. A glance shared across a crowded garden, a flicker of pride, mixed with something more complicated, perhaps fear of just how quickly their little girl was slipping beyond the confines of childhood. It was said William's expression betrayed everything he was feeling. Here stood his daughter, a poised young lady, effortlessly commanding attention where once she had sought refuge behind her mother's skirts. The emotional weight of that recognition that she was growing up quickly hit them like a storm. And still, the whispers grew louder, that this transformation wasn't just a public spectacle but carried with it consequences that reached into the very fabric of royal life itself. It wasn't only about how she carried herself at events or how she curtsied before the queen. Those who watched closely understood that something far deeper had shifted something within her that began to ripple outward, changing not only the family dynamic but, perhaps, even the future of the monarchy itself. Behind the scenes, aides and advisors debated quietly whether her influence might someday extend beyond her brothers, whether this transformation foreshadowed a quiet revolution from within. No one dared say it aloud, but many felt it in their bones. The little princess was becoming something extraordinary, and it would not stop at appearances. And it all began with a quiet, unspoken bond between father and daughter, a bond so profound it could be seen in the smallest gestures. When William looks at Charlotte, it's as though he sees something no one else can. But what exactly lies behind those tender glances and whispered words? There's a weight, an unspoken truth, that only a father and daughter could ever fully understand. From the very beginning, their connection has defied the rigid, suffocating expectations of royal life. It is not forged in duty or tradition, but in something much more intimate, something no crown could ever command. In a world where every gesture is scrutinized, theirs are purely their own subtle, authentic, and quietly unshakable. Even among those closest to them, their bond remains a mystery. Those who have witnessed it up close describe it not as performative affection, but as a lifeline between themone that seems to anchor Charlotte amid the chaos swirling around her young life. William, who carries his own childhood scars, appears determined to give his daughter something he rarely felt himself growing up, a sense of being seen, completely, and without reservation. To him, she is not just a princess. She is his mignonetahis, small and sweet, as he has affectionately called her since she was little. The nickname, though never uttered in front of cameras, has become something of a quiet rebellion against the pomp of their world. It belongs only to them. At public events, the depth of their connection reveals itself in the smallest, most fleeting moments, a reassuring touch on her shoulder, a quick exchange of glances that conveys more than words ever could. In the grandeur of ceremonies and under the glare of relentless flashbulbs, Charlotte often looks to her father as if to steady herself. And each time, he meets her gaze with a look of unwavering pride. One cannot help but notice how these subtle exchanges calm her, as though reminding her that, despite the spectacle, she is never truly alone. Those moments are small, yes, but they are undeniably powerful. They are William's way of saying what words would only cheapen. I see you, I know you, I am here. Perhaps the most telling of these moments came during her very first public wave. Standing before a sea of strangers, Charlotte instinctively reached for her father's hand before she found her courage. William, his eyes shimmering with emotion, gave her the faintest nod of approval as she raised her tiny hand and greeted the crowd with unexpected grace. That simple wave, so full of bravery and innocence, was enough to fill him with a bittersweet realization. His little girl was already growing faster than he could grasp. But even this cherished bond couldn't prepare William and Kate for what came next, a moment that left them both awestruck. It wasn't during a grand ceremony or televised event. It was during an ordinary visit that Charlotte's transformation became undeniable even to her parents. On a warm spring afternoon at the Chelsea Flower Show, what should have been just another royal appearance unfolded into something unforgettable. Charlotte moved through the gardens with a presence that left everyone breathless: guests, staff, even her own mother and father. She was no longer simply following their lead. She was confidently engaging, asking thoughtful questions, and speaking with such calm authority that seasoned dignitaries were momentarily thrown off balance. Those who watched her that day could hardly reconcile the poised young girl before them with the shy child they had known only months earlier. For William and Kate, it was a revelation that struck like lightning. From across the flowers and crowds, they exchanged glances laden with both pride and astonishment. The look in William's eyes betrayed something deeper, a quiet ache at realizing how quickly his daughter was growing beyond him. Charlotte's movements were no longer tentative. Her words carried weight, her composure radiated maturity. Kate, usually the picture of control, was seen briefly pressing her lips together, as though holding back a flood of emotion. Between them, there was an unspoken recognition their little girl had crossed a threshold they hadn't seen coming. What made this moment so powerful was not merely her confidence, but how natural it seemed, as though she had always belonged in that role, waiting patiently for the world to notice. The transformation was undeniable, yet still wrapped in a kind of quiet grace. Gone was the child who clung tightly to her mother's hand, shrinking from the gaze of strangers. Here stood a girl who walked slightly ahead, her shoulders squared, her head held high, commanding attention without demanding it. Even William, who had spent his life under similar scrutiny, seemed unprepared for how seamlessly she stepped into the light. For a fleeting second, his face revealed the inner struggle between overwhelming pride and the haunting realization that her childhood was already slipping through his fingers. He watched her laugh gently with guests, offer polite nods, and take in her surroundings with clear-eyed confidence. There was no denying it, something inside her had shifted, and they both knew this moment marked the crossing of an invisible line, a line that separated the child she had been from the young woman she was becoming. And yet, behind her poise, stood another guiding force, one far more subtle, but equally transformative. As the world watched Charlotte bloom, few noticed the quiet hands shaping her journey. Kate Middleton's influence was everywhere, but nowhere obvious. In a family where every move is choreographed and every word scrutinized, Kate has somehow managed to weave an entirely different kind of narrative. One not written in grand speeches or staged photographs, but in the quiet corners of her daughter's life where the stakes are highest and the cameras can't reach. Her approach is nothing short of revolutionary, though it unfolds with such subtlety that most fail to see it at all. Calm, real, and unshakably grounded, Kate's parenting has become the invisible architecture of Charlotte's transformation. Rather than forcing Charlotte to fit the mold of a perfect princess, Kate has gently reshaped the mold itself. Where others might have drilled her in decorum and rehearsed responses, Kate has favored something far more authentic, teaching her daughter to navigate her royal obligations without letting them consume her spirit. It is a delicate balance, and yet Kate carries it with the kind of ease that belies how intentional it truly is. Behind closed doors, she has insisted on moments of normalcy, school drop-offs in jeans, whispered reassurances when the camera's close in, and private traditions that root Charlotte firmly in her family, not just her title. One moment at Wimbledon spoke volumes about Kate's philosophy. As Charlotte sat looking just slightly overwhelmed by the crowd and the attention, Kate leaned in not to correct her posture or whisper a rehearsed line, but to simply brush a loose strand of hair aside and offer a few quiet words. It was nothing grand, but it was everything. In that instant, Kate reminded her daughter that she didn't need to perform, didn't need to be perfect, she only needed to be herself. That single gesture, as fleeting as it was, reflected years of deliberate choices. The choice to prioritize character over protocol, to favor grace over grandeur, and to make family come first, always. And that's precisely what Charlotte radiates today, a sense of belonging that seems unforced, genuine, and rare. Unlike the rigid confidence that sometimes defines royal heirs, Charlotte's poise appears natural, almost effortless. It's no accident. Kate's quiet resistance to overtraining her daughter has allowed her to move through royal life with authenticity. She has managed to shield her from the suffocating pressures that William himself once endured, all while preparing her to stand tall under a spotlight that grows brighter every day. This philosophy, this unwavering belief that family comes first, has been Kate's greatest gift to her daughter. And in Charlotte's calm, confident presence, that gift is reflected back for all to see. Yet Charlotte's story isn't just about careful parenting, it's also about her own quiet strength, revealed in moments that silenced even palace insiders. Every royal milestone carries weight, but some moments become turning points when childhood innocence meets royal destiny. For Charlotte, those moments arrived quietly, almost deceptively, yet they carried the force of history behind them. Her move from Wilcox's nursery to Thomas's battery was not just a change of schools, but a decisive step toward visibility. The day she walked through those gates, hand in hand with George, she was no longer just a child of the palace. She was stepping into the gaze of the world, into a place where every movement was watched, recorded, and remembered. Yet there was no falter in her stride, no hesitation in her eyes. Side by side with her brother, she seemed to embrace the weight of that walk, aware on some unspoken level that her path was no longer entirely her own. It was a moment William and Kate could not take lightly. As they watched their daughter walk into the next chapter of her life, they understood this was not just about education, it was about identity, the symbolic passing of a threshold. And from that day, Charlotte never looked back. At public appearances that followed, she began to greet the world with an elegance that startled even those closest to her. Confident waves replaced shy glances, and those poised curtsies, deliberate yet full of grace, became defining gestures of her character. Royal watchers and commentators noted the maturity behind her movements, the precision of her behavior. But her parents saw something more. They saw their little girl balancing the heavy expectations of her name with an authenticity all her own. Perhaps the most haunting example of her transformation came at Queen Elizabeth II's funeral a day, steeped in grief, ceremony, and the finality of an era. While much of the world mourned the monarch, William and Kate couldn't help but watch their daughter with a mix of sorrow and admiration. There she stood, small in stature, but commanding the moment with grace that defied her age. Her curtsy that day was not rehearsed theater but a silent acknowledgement of history, an act so dignified it drew tears from her parents' eyes. It was a scene neither of them could have fully prepared for, and yet Charlotte bore it without faltering. In each of these milestones, William and Kate's pride was visible, though tempered with the bittersweet ache that comes from watching a child grow beyond them. These weren't merely markers of age, they were evidence of character and maturity unfolding before their eyes. Every wave, every step, every glance spoke of a young girl who was learning to carry herself not as a symbol, but as herself, poised yet unbroken, regal yet entirely human. But what truly sets Charlotte apart is what happens when the cameras stop rolling, where her quiet leadership emerges. Not all leaders need crowns or titles. Some lead with whispers and small hands like Charlotte, guiding her brothers in ways that surprised even the closest staff. Within the walls of the palace, her influence has grown into something quietly undeniable, a steadying force that no one expected but everyone now counts on. Among her siblings, Charlotte has earned a reputation not just as the middle child, but as the center of gravity. And nowhere is this more evident than in her bond with Louis, a relationship so unique and so powerful that staff have come to call her the Louis Whisperer. Whenever Louis falters, as he often does in the intensity of royal life, it is Charlotte who grounds him. During formal events, she can be seen leaning down just enough to catch his wandering attention, offering a quick word that settles him instantly. In more private moments, she guides him with a patience that feels far beyond her years, a light hand on his back, a glance that pulls him back to himself. Even William and Kate have come to rely on her quiet vigilance, knowing that where their own presence might feel overwhelming, Charlotte's is disarming, gentle, effective. Her influence doesn't stop with Louis. George, destined to carry the heaviest burden of all, has also learned to look to her in moments of uncertainty. Though he is the elder and heir, there are times when it is Charlotte who offers the unspoken reassurance he needs. She checks on him with subtle glances, holds his gaze when the crowds grow too loud, and reminds him without a word that he is not alone in his role. What makes this dynamic so extraordinary is its humility. She never seeks attention for these gestures, never lets them overshadow those she supports. But the effect is impossible to ignore. What truly defines Charlotte in the eyes of those closest to the family is the balance she brings to every room she enters. She has an uncanny ability to diffuse tension with just enough mischief to keep everyone grounded, yet never crossing into disrespect. When the mood grows heavy, she lightens it. When it becomes chaotic, she quiets it. This rare ability to harmonize the family to keep them aligned and connected has turned her into an indispensable presence. Even during public events, where every move is under a microscope, her quiet leadership subtly shapes the family's behavior. Staff have remarked how her composure ripples outward, calming Louis, supporting George, and even influencing her parents. She has become not just a sister or daughter, but a natural caregiver, a quiet force whose strength is felt even when it isn't seen. And as her influence at home grew, so too did a vision for her future, one that would challenge royal tradition itself. Most imagine Charlotte's future as predetermined tiaras and ceremonies, but behind palace doors, a different path is being carefully carved for her. William and Kate have no intention of letting their daughter become a prisoner of her own title. They have seen, firsthand, what that kind of rigid destiny can do to a soul. And so, quietly, they are rewriting the script. Their vision is not confined to royal processions or endless obligations. Instead, it reaches far beyond the gilded walls of the palace, into a life where Charlotte's choices can carry as much weight as her lineage. There are whispers that she's already begun training in skills unheard of for a royal child. Tactical driving, international relations, crisis navigation. Not simply symbolic gestures, but real, tangible preparation for a world where she might be expected to handle herself in situations no princess has faced before. It's a startling break from the tradition of raising royals to exist in a bubble. And it's deliberate. William and Kate want her to grow up knowing she can stand on her own, that she has tools, not just titles, at her disposal. This philosophy represents a radical shift from the past. Where previous generations were expected to obey, to submit, to conform, Charlotte is being taught to think, to choose, to lead. The old rules are being challenged with every quiet decision her parents make on her behalf. They refuse to let her be boxed into a single narrative, because to them, being a princess is not her purpose. It is only a part of her story. Balancing royal heritage with individual freedom is not easy. The tension between duty and desire has destroyed many before her, but the way they are raising her seems to strike at that tension with precision. She is learning she can honor her family's legacy while still carving out her own identity. And already, that duality seems to shine through her in her confidence at public events, her leadership at home, her quiet dignity in private moments. For Charlotte, growing up with this philosophy means something extraordinary. It means she carries the crown lightly, knowing she can wear it when she chooses, but she is not bound to it forever. It means she walks into every room knowing she is more than what people expect her to be. And that understanding, that sense of ownership over her own destiny, is perhaps the most powerful gift her parents could ever give her. Yet through all the changes, one thing remains. She is still just a young girl, holding on to moments of childhood while carrying the weight of a name. Beneath the poised exterior lies the heart of a little girl with ballet classes, homework, and whispered jokes at the dinner table. Charlotte's world, though weighed down by royal expectations, remains alive with the sweetness of childhood. It's this duality of public grace and private playfulness that makes her journey so compelling. While the world sees a young princess mastering ceremonies and curtsies, behind the scenes she still giggles over bedtime stories, competes with her brothers in games that leave the palace echoing with laughter, and twirls in ballet slippers when no one is watching. This balance is not accidental. It is carefully, even fiercely, protected. William and Kate have fought to preserve her childhood amid duty, and they have succeeded for now in shielding her from the relentless demands that once stripped others of their innocence. At the dinner table, she cracks jokes that dissolve the tension of the day, reminding everyone she is still their Charlotte first and a princess second. On quiet nights, she settles into routines that feel almost ordinary, reading with her mother, teasing George, helping Louis sneak an extra biscuit when they think no one notices. These moments, though unseen by the cameras, reveal a girl who still clings to her childhood, even as the world insists she grows faster than she should. What makes her presence so remarkable is her effortless ability to switch between roles. One moment she is the playful sister, racing through corridors with her brothers. Next, she is the graceful royal, standing at attention as though the weight of history rests comfortably on her shoulders. This ability to straddle both worlds to embrace her humanity while fulfilling her duty is rare, and it is quietly shaping her into someone the family will come to depend on more and more. Staff close to the family speak of moments that peel away the polished image the public assumes. They describe a little girl who sometimes refuses to let go of her father's hand before a big event, or who hides her laughter behind her hand when something amusing happens during a solemn ceremony. These glimpses show a child who remains relatable, grounded, and full of spirit traits that have already won over those who know her best. This delicate balance of growing up royal yet remaining herself defines Charlotte more than any title ever could. She holds tightly to her private joys even as she learns to carry the family's public burdens. Her warmth offsets the cold grandeur of palace life, reminding those around her, and perhaps even herself, that she is still just a child. And as she continues to grow, she carries the hopes of a family and the weight of a legacy with grace far beyond her years. Every royal story has a beginning, but Princess Charlotte's feels like the dawn of something entirely new. The question is, where will it lead? In just a few short years, she has become more than a princess in the making. She has emerged as a living reflection of a modern monarchy, one that honors its traditions but dares to embrace progress. Her journey so far has not only captivated the public, but reshaped expectations of what it means to grow up royal in a world that no longer accepts the old ways without question. In her presence, the tension between past and future doesn't fracture, it fuses into something extraordinary. Charlotte embodies the perfect contradiction. She carries herself with the grace of generations who came before her, yet she moves through life with an authenticity that feels entirely her own. That balance of tradition and progress has already begun to influence the very fabric of the royal family. Her milestones, both quiet and public, have left an emotional imprint not just on the monarchy, but on her parents and siblings, who often look at her with pride, tinged with awe. William and Kate have found themselves moved to tears by her courage. George, though destined to wear the crown, has learned strength by watching her lead. Even little Louis has found his anchor in her calm, steady hand. What is perhaps most remarkable is how Charlotte has managed to inspire even the seasoned royals around her. Those who once believed there was only one way to serve have found themselves rethinking what it means to belong to this family. Through her humility and quiet confidence, she has reminded them that true power does not shout. It whispers, it steadies, it endures. Her impact has rippled far beyond what anyone could have imagined when she was first introduced to the world as just another royal baby. For those watching, perhaps you, the journey has been nothing short of mesmerizing. From her very first wave to her poised curtsy at the Queen's funeral, from her gentle leadership at home to her daring vision for the future, Charlotte has shown us what it means to grow up under the weight of a name and still remain yourself. The question now belongs to you. What has been your favorite moment of hers? The time she stood taller than her years, the time she whispered reassurance to her brother, or the time she met the world with quiet defiance in her eyes? We invite you to share your own reflections, because Charlotte's story, like the crown she carries, is only just beginning, and where it will lead is something no one, not even the monarchy itself, can predict. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.